Hey nerdy knitters, it's Tanya here. In this video we're looking at the right and left lifted increase and how they are worked. And I also have kind of a lazy way to work the right lifted increase, so stick around to catch that. And if you want to jump to any point, use the timestamp links in the video description box down below. Let's take a look at the right and left lifted increase. First, let's figure out where they're actually worked. I've got a demonstration for 2 stitches here. This is the stitch that's on your needle. It would sit just like that. And this is the stitch below the needle. This is where we actually work that increase. The right lifted increase is worked in the right leg. The left lifted increase is worked in the left leg. And that's where they get their names, depending on the leg they're worked on. So let's look at how to work this. Got a little swatch here. I'm working some increases on either side of the center. You can see the new rows or the new columns of stitches are going off in the right and the left directions. Let's start with the right lifted increase. Okay, this is where I want my increase. And like in our demonstration here, it's worked in this leg. So there's the stitch that I want to use, and there's that right leg. All I do is insert my needle. Doesn't matter which way, I just want to get it up on the needle without splitting that other stitch. Okay, and I have it seated like a regular stitch. So all I do is insert my needle, knit, and drop it off, and then work the next stitch. And that is a right lifted increase. Let me do that again. Okay, so I'm at the place I want to work the stitch. There's the stitch. It's not the stitch on the needle. It's the stitch directly below the stitch on the needle. All I do is insert my needle from right to left under that right leg, bring it up and put it on the needle, on the left needle, and knit it just like a normal stitch. Let it drop off and then knit the next stitch. And that's a right lifted increase. Now I want to work a left lifted increase in this stitch, and not this stitch on the needle, but the stitch that's directly below right here. But obviously I can't get to this left leg. It's over here on this side. I can't get to it from here. It would cross it over if I tried to pull it out. What I have to do is work this stitch first. There's my new stitch. There's the stitch that was on the needle. There's the stitch that I want to put the increase in. So when you're working the left lifted increase, you have to pay attention to that, because I don't want it on this stitch. I want it in this stitch down here. So I have to work this stitch to get to that leg. But now it's moved down because I have a new stitch. There's the stitch that was on my needles. And there's the stitch I want to work my increase in. So I just lift it up just like that. But you'll notice it's not seated like a regular stitch. The left leg is in the front and the right leg is in the back. So instead of, if I knit this, it's going to twist that, and I don't want a twisted stitch. So I have to knit through the back loop. I have to insert, so I'm still in the center of that loop, just like we were right here. If we set this on our needle like this, that stitch is not sitting right. It has to sit this way on our needles for a normal Western mounted stitch. If it's mounted this way, to keep it open instead of twisted, all we do is knit through the back loop to keep it just like that. We don't want to twist our stitch. If we have it sitting like this and we knit this way, we twist it. So the same thing is happening here. I've got that stitch up on my needle, and I don't want to knit into this because it will twist it. I want to knit into that back leg. So I insert my needle right between the two, the front and the back legs, wrap the yarn, and drop that stitch off. And that is a left lifted increase. Let's do that again. Okay, so I'm here, and I want a left lifted increase on this stitch. Can't work it here because that left leg's over there. So I have to work the stitch first. Then I have to locate it, bring it up on my needle, just like that. You see that? I'm putting my needle in the leg, the left leg of that stitch, and just drawing it up and then just knitting it through the back loop. That's it. That's how you work those 2 increases. There, we've worked our 2 increases. You can see there's our left one right there. It elongates that leg going off to the left. And there's the right leaning increase. It elongates this stitch going off to the right. Okay, stick around. I'm going to work back a few rows, and then I'm going to show you another way to work the right lifted increase. I'm at the point where I want to work the right lifted increase. There's that right leg, and I could pop it right up on my needle and knit into it, but I'm going to show you another way to work it. It's the same stitch, but instead of putting it up on my needle, all I'm going to do is turn this over so I can see the wrong side. And right there is the head of the stitch. So I'm just going to insert my needle there, wrap the yarn, and knit. And I've worked a lifted increase, a right lifted increase, without actually putting the stitch on my needle. Let me show you that again. There's that stitch. I'm going to follow it around. There's the head of the stitch right here. I'm going to insert my needle, wrap my yarn, and that is a right lifted increase. And you can see our increases that we worked a few rows. I worked a few rows so we could see them. There's where the right lifted increase starts. You can see right here. It sort of gives it the leg a slant that way. And the left lifted increase, the leg sort of slants off in that direction and off to the left. I don't have any tricks to work the left lifted increase since we have to use our left needle to pick it up, but that one is pretty easy to do. And that's all there is to it. If you like to get a bit nerdy with your knitting, click the subscribe button down below.